Hello, everyone, and welcome to Firstpost America. We're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And today on the program, the White House does an about-face on Ukraine and a brewing uprising inside the MAGA tent. These and other stories coming up, but first, a look at the latest headlines. Gold prices climb to a 3-week high, boosted by safe haven demand after President Donald Trump threatens tariffs on the European Union and Mexico. Silver prices also soared to their highest level in over 13 years. Malaysia clamps down on the export, transshipment, and transit of all U.S.-made artificial intelligence chips, seeking to stop illegal trade to countries including China. Cambodia's prime minister says the Southeast Asian country will begin conscripting civilians next year, citing rising tensions with Thailand as a reason for activating a long-dormant mandatory enlistment law. New Zealand says it plans to double its international education market by 2034, offering incentives that include relaxing rules on part-time work while studying for foreign students. And Elon Musk says he does not support a merger between two of his companies, Tesla and XAI, hours after saying he may seek shareholder approval for an investment into his AI startup, which owns Grok chatbot. We begin with a major shift in the United States posture on Ukraine. President Donald Trump has announced that Washington will send Patriot missiles to Kyiv just days after he reversed his administration's decision to freeze some arms shipments to the embattled nation. Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews on Sunday, the president confirmed that the missiles will be sent soon and made it clear that Europe, not the United States, will be footing the bill.
We basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military. They're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it.
Now, when asked about how many Patriot systems would be sent, the president did not give a number, but it said that the move was necessary given the intensity of Russia's ongoing attacks.
I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it. But we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice, and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it.
President Donald Trump's comments come amid a worsening security situation in Ukraine and mounting pressure from NATO to bolster Kyiv's defenses. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for more air defense systems to counter relentless drone and missile barrages launched by Russia.
We are doing everything to ensure Ukraine receives as many means to shoot down drones and missiles as possible. We are nearing a multi-layered agreement on new Patriot systems and missiles for them. We are investing in our own production, especially of drones, including interceptor drones. We will continue active drone operations on Russian territory in response to their strikes. As always, we will act asymmetrically and effectively.
The Ukrainian president's demand for air defenses comes at a crucial moment, with President Trump set to make a major statement on Russia later today. President Trump previously hinted that he might be ready to slap sanctions on Moscow as momentum grows for a deterrent package in the Congress. Republican senators are touting a bipartisan bill that would arm the president with a sledgehammer to use against Russia. Now, the sanctions bill would allow the White House to reportedly go after Russia's economy and all those countries that prop up its war machine, and may even allow the administration to impose tariffs of up to 500% on countries that continue to import Russian oil and gas. Still, as Congress weighs new sanctions, diplomatic channels remain active, and Trump is meeting NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Washington today for talks on Ukraine, defense coordination, and the delivery of military aid. And in a parallel move, U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg landed in Kyiv this morning to hold talks with Ukrainian officials, marking a fresh phase of engagement by the White House. His arrival coincided with a barrage of Russian drone strikes on Ukrainian cities, prompting emergency responses. Now, the Kremlin has previously said that sending arms to Ukraine would only prolong the conflict. And so as the conflict escalates, all eyes are on Washington on what President Trump will announce, what America's next move will be, and how it could reshape the course of the war. Jeffrey Epstein's name has resurfaced once again in American political debates. This time, it's President Donald Trump trying to steer his supporters away from the growing outrage over the latest findings in the Epstein case. Now, Epstein, a disgraced financier, died in 2019 while in federal custody awaiting trial on charges related to sex trafficking and conspiracy. For years, many Americans, especially in far-right and conspiracy circles, believed that Epstein had powerful clients whom he blackmailed. They also continue to question whether his death was truly a suicide. Now, a new memo from the FBI and Justice Department has rejected both of these claims. And the report goes on to say there's no evidence that Epstein kept a client list or that he was in fact murdered. However, this conclusion did not sit well with many in President Trump's base, including far-right influencers and conservative figures online. Amongst many criticizing President Trump was Elon Musk and American radio host Alex Jones. The duo accused the government of hiding the truth and demanded more transparency. Musk even asked his former ally to just release the case files related to the sex offender as promised. Now, the repeated backlash pushed President Trump to respond, and in a lengthy post on Truth Social, he told his followers to stop attacking his team over the Epstein issue. The president further insisted the case was being blown out of proportion and that it was time to move on. He wrote, and I quote, "Let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about," end quote.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
But that wasn't enough for Elon Musk, and in another comment he said this is a very big deal, and further accused the system of not taking any action on behalf of thousands of children who were repeatedly abused. In fact, during his presidential election campaign in 2024, President Trump had pledged to make the case files related to Jeffrey Epstein public. And while the Biden administration's findings at the time said that Epstein died by suicide, Republicans, however, have long claimed he was murdered. So for now, President Trump wants his supporters to move past Epstein. And now whether they listen or keep digging into the conspiracy remains to be seen. And staying with the Epstein controversy, President Trump's efforts to shut down the outrage appears to be backfiring spectacularly. His defense of Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Chief Kash Patel has sparked a full-blown internal revolt. MAGA influencers who once cheered President Trump's promises of transparency now accuse his team of covering up the truth. Tensions have also erupted behind the scenes with talk of resignations, betrayal, and broken alliances. And while the president insists there's nothing more to see, his base simply isn't buying it. The Epstein files were supposed to end conspiracies, not ignite new ones. Our next report dives into the growing backlash created inside the MAGA tent.
President Donald Trump is not backing down. But this time it's not the media, the Democrats, or even Joe Biden in his crosshairs. It is his own base. In the wake of the FBI and Justice Department's final Epstein memo, the MAGA world is in revolt. Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, once seen as untouchable loyalists, are now in the firing line. Conservative influencers from Laura Loomer to even the president's once close associate, Elon Musk, are now demanding answers. Where's the Epstein client list? Why is the DOJ refusing to release it? What happened to the promised truth? And Trump, clearly rattled, has stepped in forcefully. In a blistering 400-word rant on Truth Social, he told his followers to stop going after his people. Pam Bondi is doing a fantastic job, he wrote. He then called Kash Patel and Bongino the greatest law enforcement professionals and dismissed the Epstein outrage as a distraction. His message? Move on, let it go. But MAGA doesn't seem ready to forgive or forget. Behind the scenes, tensions are exploding. Reports say Bongino and Bondi had a heated confrontation earlier this week. Now Bongino is reportedly threatening to quit and torch Pam on the way out. I don't think Dan comes back if Pam stays, a source told the New York Post. Even Kash Patel, usually unflappable, is said to be reconsidering his role, though he publicly denied the rumor, saying the conspiracy theories just aren't true.
The conspiracy theories just aren't true, never have been. It's an honor to serve the President of the United States, and I'll continue to do so for as long as he calls on me.
This family feud is more than personal. It's about promises. And Bondi, under intense pressure, tried to walk back her February comments where she claimed the list was sitting on my desk.
It's sitting on my desk.
However, last week she clarified she meant the full Epstein file along with JFK and MLK documents.
First, to back up on that, in February I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
And clearly no one is buying it. Not Elon Musk, not Alex Jones, not Steve Bannon, Laura Loomer, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. The base wants the files, period. To make matters worse, the memo confirmed a chilling detail. Hundreds of gigabytes of data. Videos, images, names, most of it child pornography. Files that, according to the DOJ, will never see the light of day. Even that 1-minute missing surveillance clip from Epstein's cell, Bondi says the camera resets each night.
We released the video showing definitively, the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Trump's message now is clear. Focus on the future, not Epstein. But in a movement built on suspicion and secrets, will his base stay loyal or dig deeper than ever before?
And now, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is reportedly planning to deport migrants with as little as 6 hours of advance notice to countries they don't even call home, with no safety and guarantee from the receiving nations themselves. Under the new deportation policy, thousands of migrants in the United States could be uprooted overnight and sent to places they've never even lived. Lawyers are calling it extremely dangerous and warn that it could change everything for thousands living in America. Our next report tells you why.
Picture this: a knock at the door, and 6 hours later, you're on a plane being deported to a country where you've never lived. No time to pack properly, no chances for goodbyes, and no guarantee of safety at the other end. Sounds made up? This might become the new reality for some migrants in the United States. Reports say a major shift in the US immigration policy now allows people to be deported almost instantly, and not just to their home countries, but to third countries where they may have no ties at all. Under a recent memo from US Immigration and Custom Enforcement, or the ICE, there are now 3 different reported scenarios for removing migrants to a third country. First, if the country offering to take the migrant does not guarantee their safety, ICE must give at least 24 hours notice before deportation. Second, in urgent or exigent cases, such as last-minute flights or security issues, the notice period can shrink to just 6 hours. And third, if the destination country has given diplomatic assurance that the migrant will be safe, ICE doesn't have to give any notice at all. This marks a sharp departure from the previous practice, where such deportations were rare and required more time and protection. The change could affect thousands of people, including long-term residents, people with stable jobs, families, and even legal work permits. Immigration lawyers say the policy could send people to countries where they do not speak the language, have no support, and face real danger. One case cited in a lawsuit involves a Guatemalan man who was deported to Mexico, a country where he was later kidnapped and raped. Earlier this year, a US District Court judge ruled that deportees should be given at least 10 days' notice to allow them to challenge their removal. But the Supreme Court has now put that ruling on hold. It did not provide a detailed explanation, clearing the way for new deportation rules to go forward. According to reports, ICE says screenings for humanitarian protection will still be done, but they will happen quickly, often within 24 hours. Officials also don't need to ask deportees if they fear going to a third country. If any immigrant expresses fear of being deported in the 24-hour period, they will be screened for possible humanitarian protection. These screenings will determine if the person deserves immigration court proceedings or humanitarian protection. As of now, around 55,000 migrants are in ICE detention. More than 207,000 migrants have been deported, and the Trump administration has plans to do more. With this policy, thousands of migrants in the US could be uprooted in hours and sent to countries they've never called home. 6 hours may be enough to book a flight, but is it enough to decide someone's fate?
And for our final story, we shift our focus to the Middle East. Deadly clashes have erupted in southern Syria between Druze groups and Bedouin tribes in the city of Sweda. According to Syria's Interior Ministry, at least 30 people were killed and nearly 100 others injured over the weekend. But a war monitor called the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported a higher toll of at least 50 people dead. The violence began after a string of kidnappings sparked tit-for-tat attacks between the two sides. And the Interior Ministry said the fighting broke out in a Sweden neighborhood following what it called accumulated tensions over time.
This dangerous escalation comes in light of the absence of relevant official institutions, leading to worsening chaos, a collapse of the security situation, and the local community's inability to contain the crisis despite repeated calls for calm. This has increased the number of casualties and poses a direct threat to civil peace in the region.
Now, the main highway linking Damascus to Sweden was closed as military convoys were sent to stabilize the area. And Syria's defense ministry said special units were in fact deployed to provide safe passages for civilians and to restore order.
In coordination with Interior Ministry, we have deployed specialized military units to the affected areas. We call on all parties to cooperate with security forces. We are fully ready to support any initiative to strengthen civil peace.
But despite the deployment, violence has continued. In fact, reports suggest 6 members of Syria's security forces have been killed in Sweden earlier today after they were deployed to halt deadly sectarian clashes. Meanwhile, the governor of Sweden province, along with several Druze spiritual leaders, called for calm and urged Damascus to step in. Now, this is the first outbreak of sectarian violence inside Sweden city in years, and it comes amid heightened tensions since the December ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad. Now, since then, an Islamist-led government has taken control, promising to protect minorities, but struggling to establish order in provinces like Sweden. The Druze, a religious minority rooted in Shia Islam, had mostly remained neutral during Syria's 14-year civil war. But since the political transition, they faced growing violence and uncertainty. Syria's pre-Civil War Druze population numbered around 700,000, with Sweden province home to the sect's largest community. many foreign militias during the war and clashed with government forces in April and May, leaving dozens dead. Now, earlier this year, a prominent Druze spiritual leader accused the government of launching a genocidal campaign. And following the latest violence, the Education Ministry has postponed upcoming exams in Sweden as authorities look to restore calm. This escalating unrest comes at a time when Damascus is courting Western governments in a bid to end years of isolation. Earlier this month, the United States announced it was revoking its so-called foreign terrorist organization designation for Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a group once linked to al-Qaeda and widely believed to have toppled Syria's former government in December. But while Syria looks outward, questions are growing over how minorities are being treated at home. In May, French President Emmanuel Macron called on Syria's new leaders to ensure protection for all communities in the multi-confessional state. And earlier this year, Israeli forces conducted airstrikes near the presidential palace in Damascus after warning they would intervene if the Druze minority was not protected. So as the situation in Sweden remains tense and sectarian divisions deepen, the international community is watching closely to see if Damascus can restore order and avoid a deeper spiral into violence. That's our show for today. On behalf of all of our Firstpost members here, we want to thank all of you for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.